Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Northeast Scene Podcast. I'm Keith.
And I'm Tommy.
And we are here virtually. Since we recorded the last batch of episodes, the entire world has fallen apart. Everyone is confined to their domiciles, us included. But the show must go on. We are here virtually on Skype, and we're gonna keep doing the show. Now, first, let me start by saying this. The response to the first 4 episodes was awesome. More than either of us imagined. More plays than we imagined. More people reaching out to you than we imagined. So thank you so much to everybody who listened and to everybody who reached out. I mean, it was just incredible, right?
Even if it's just selfish, like nice things that like people will be like, "Hey, I was at that show too." Like, who sent pictures the other day? Slasher Steve.
Yes.
Like Jersey Steve. I looked at it and I was like, "Oh." I remember seeing those people at that show, and it was just like nice to see another perspective of that, even if it's just like I said, that selfish reason of like, I want to see more pictures. I want to see stuff from back then, because it's 20 years ago, more than that.
Yeah, which is really weird. And shout out to Slasher Steve 1031 on Instagram. He sent us some good pictures. We're going to be putting up. The pictures we're referencing are from a Zao show at Faith Reformed Church in Levittown, Pennsylvania. That was one of the shows I filmed on my fucking tapes that are gone. And so I was so happy that he had those pics, because that's like we mentioned, part of the reason we're doing this whole thing is to document what we have, and for me to lament all those lost tapes. But thank you, Slasher Steve, for sending those pictures. We have some more that we're going to be bringing, and the response has been great. And keep reaching out to us, northeastscene@gmail.com, and if you have show pictures, flyers, show videos, good stories. And now listen, there's a way to pitch these things, and there's a way not to pitch these things. And I'm gonna break it down for you. Now, Lurker Lover 3 on Instagram contacted me. Now listen, he said, all right. He said, talk about my fanzine. That's all he said. Now I'm gonna mention the fanzine, Mr. Lurker Lover, but I'm also gonna use you as an example. He just messaged me one message. Talk about guerrilla warfare fanzine. That's it. That's the message. Now, I'm mentioning the magazine, so go check it out. I couldn't exactly find it online. I saw some show videos, or it might be a video thing. I'm not sure, but, go check it out. But give us something to work with. Like, pretend you're asking us out on a date or something. Like, hi, my name is so-and-so. This is the project I'm involved with. These are the artists I've worked with. And give us a story. Give us something to work with. Like, like we were mentioning before, an influencer from your town, like this guy booked all these shows, and now he's doing this, or hey, here's a band that I was a part of, and we did this and that, and here's bands we toured with. Like, we need a story. We need something to present to people, not just here's my band, mention it, or here's my zine, mention it. Thank you, Mr. Lurker Lover, for reaching out. I'm just busting chops, but give us something to work with.
Well, this whole format is just telling stories. So if we don't have anything to tell, like, if it was something like the origin of this, whatever the zine is, like, yeah, cool, that's great. Let's tell it because it's funny, or it's interesting, or it involves people that we're familiar with or something like that. Yeah, but just like randomly throwing out like, hey, put this on there. Like, no.
No, we're not just going to do that.
Yeah. No, I think it's nice though. Is like some of the responses. Like, I've looked in a couple of the threads, like where people are just like commenting on stuff, and it's a lot of people tagging other people, being like, "Hey, do you remember this?" And that's like, I think like we think of our conversations when we get together now. It's like 90% of like what we talk about is, "Hey, do you remember that time that like no new things happened? We just rehash old shit." Like, that's literally what we do. So, like, if you're reaching out to us and you want us to talk about it, like, put it in the context of something that kind of lends itself to the medium that we're dealing with here.
Yes,
we had to talk about it, so give us something to talk about. Like
the overall, we wanted to fit into the overall story, and like we said before, it doesn't have to just be Philly or New York or Northeast. You know, it can be anywhere. Just give us something to work with.
yeah,
Now, since we last recorded, the world has fallen apart. I've been staying indoors. Once they announced like restaurant and bar closings here in New York City, I was like, okay, I'm staying in. This
yeah.
is getting really serious. And I have been coping with that time indoors by I discovered Call of Duty Modern Warfare online. Now I've always played the single player, but online is just I'm hooked. I'm like hopelessly hooked. It's like it's such a problem that I'm like dreaming about it. Like you die and then you run right back into the battle and you die again, and that's happening in my dream. And I'm like I couldn't sleep last night. I was like dizzy from it. It
Oh
was
my
very
God.
disorienting. But it's a great waste of time, and I highly recommend playing it. So there's that, and I have a new certification I'm working on, and things have actually been really busy, busier than they've been in a long time. So, which is good because it keeps me busy. And what have you been doing?
So, my school that I teach at was extremely proactive about this. So I think I forget the dates, but whatever that Thursday before we left for this kind of extended break, that Thursday, they basically told us, "Hey, come in tomorrow on Friday. We're telling kids not to show up, and you're gonna write 14 days of lesson plans." And we did. We all showed up on that Friday morning. There were no kids in the building. They gave us a real brief tutorial on how to use Google Hangouts, how to use Google Classroom if you didn't already use it, and basically set us off on our own for the next 8 to 10 hours to say, hey, make these lessons up and get them in. They need to be in before you walk out the door today. You're handing us 14 days of lesson plans. Cool part is that I've been still teaching every day. I go online. We have a set schedule for our students. We go over everything in terms of material we went through the day before. I pick a problem every day from the previous day's classwork, and I go. Oh, actually, I don't even know if I can actually just show it to you. I'm standing next to the goddamn thing. So I have a little setup in my basement. It's actually for my daughters, but I
It looks
review.
like Dillinger Escape Plan guitar tabs, folks. I'm looking at a bunch of equations, 5r over 5 plus. Things are circled. It's wild. It's
Yeah,
wild.
so it's just a lot of it's just you know it's instruction for a half hour, so the kids can ask questions. It's interactive. I can call on them. I can talk to them. The nice part is a lot of it is just they told us not to do any new material, so it's not me teaching anything new where I really should be walking around and looking at their actual work to look for mistakes. It's a lot of stuff we've already done before. The kids are flying through the work, which is really good because it's nice to be able to actually have this point in time. This is the time in the year where normally they would be like, you have to cram all this stuff in because end of year testing is coming up. Or it is they canceled all that shit. So that's all gone. There's no end of the year testing. There's no state testing is done. Like none of that's happening anymore. So it's really cool is I'm just focusing on teaching the things that I've already gone over.
So do
Um,
you have to teach virtually?
Yeah, so I go on Google Classroom every day and post something. I post, hey, go on to another, go into Khan Academy and complete these problems. Log in at 9:30. I'll teach the lesson. We'll go over any problems you guys have. I'll address any questions you have. And then after that, you go into, whatever assignments I gave you. So it's been an adjustment. It's been
Yeah,
interesting. But the nice part is that the kids are adapting to it really well.
that's
I
good.
know a lot of schools haven't even really started some of the online instruction yet. Like they're still trying to figure out what that's going to look like. Right now, I'm 2 weeks deep into it. So,
Yeah,
uh,
I'm still working too. Like I mostly work from home, so that hasn't changed. I'm just, my
yeah,
job goes on. I'm still working, and it sounds like you are too. And
yeah.
so no breaks for us. Um,
No, I won't say that I have no breaks. There's a lot less teaching, and I don't have to be. I mean, I teach in another state. Like I live in Pennsylvania and I teach in New Jersey.
yeah,
So, for me, it's a lot more time with my family, which is really cool, especially on days when it's nice outside. We've been spending, like yesterday afternoon, we were outside for the better part of 3.5, 4 hours, just sidewalk talk, riding bikes. And we live on a very, very kind of remote street. So there's
yeah.
very little traffic in front of our house. Like, I mean, the whole time we were out yesterday, I maybe saw 4 cars go by in the 3 hours you're outside. Like it's like little kid stuff, jumping rope, sidewalk talk, playing soccer, riding skateboards. Like it's super fun. Like I definitely
Wait, shouldn't everybody be inside though? You should tell them to all go back inside. We're supposed to be quarantined.
Well, I mean, technically, yes, we're quarantined with each other anyway. So we're only like it's my front yard though. It's like suburban. There's nobody around us.
So there's not like kids going to other kids' houses?
I mean, I've seen other neighbors and stuff like that have kids over, but like nobody's going anywhere. Like nobody's coming to our house and nobody's going to our house.
I think we should start a neighborhood patrol and make sure that nobody is going to anybody's house.
I will say this: yesterday we had I don't even know where Kelly found them in her wallet. She was cleaning out her wallet because this is the kind of stuff you do like when you're sitting at home. I'm gonna clean out my wallet and I'll take care of this stuff. She found 2 gift cards to Olive Garden. So yeah. We ordered Olive Garden that curbside to go last night. It was garbage. It was so gross. It was
it's like good Italian food that you'd order from like a bad pizza place or something.
Yes, exactly. No, it's exactly that. But it was like, I mean, I felt so terrible when we pulled up. It was funny. They had like a whole, kind of like mini bar set up. Guess because people aren't coming in and their shipments are still coming, they have tons of beer and tons of wine and tons of liquor. And they were literally trying to like sell like 6-packs. She was like, as she's coming up to the car, she's like, "Hey, what's your name?" I'm like, "Tom Doherty." She's like, "Hey, would you like to purchase a 6-pack or a bottle of wine while you're here?" I'm like, "No, I'm good." She's like, "Well, 6-packs are only $8," and I'm like, "Okay."
It's like I'm in a car. What are you doing?
Yeah. Like, I felt so strange. It was like I'm not trying to buy booze right now. I'm sorry. I just wanted fettuccine Alfredo and go home to my kids. Like, but yeah, no, it was very strange. And then even driving around though, it's like I drove to go get food yesterday on a Friday at 5:00 on Route 1. Nobody driving. Like, I mean, I went like maybe a dozen or so cars. The most amount of cars I saw was on Street Road. Like, and that was it.
News stories in the pictures that say like Grand Central is empty and Penn Station is empty and Times Square is empty, and I want to go check it out to see it because that would be an incredible sight. But I'm not going anywhere unless I really have to.
What was that movie that they shut down Times Square for?
Vanilla Sky.
Vanilla Sky. Yeah.
That I was thinking of. I want to see that, but in real life. How about the impact of this whole thing to the music industry? There was like the excellent run of shows I was going to go to in the last month. Let's see, Signal Hill, canceled or postponed. Caspian with Maserati.
Yeah.
Postponed. Circa Survive, 10-year anniversary of Blue Sky Noise. Postponed. Yeah. Crazy. The whole music industry just shut down.
And it's so funny as I follow a ton of bands on Instagram and a show after show of just the nice part is it's people going like, "Hey, we're not playing this show." However, usually a shot or two later is them in the studio.
Yeah.
Like I saw that band that I really like. I forget where they're from. That Olam.
Oh yeah.
Like I saw a couple things like they're canceling shows, but it's that dude Jake Khan's in the studio playing, coming up with new riffs. It's like, dude, as much as I'm disappointed I won't be able to see those bands live, I'm excited to hear new music. Like that's gonna be awesome.
I hope a lot of new music comes out of this, and it'll be nice to go to shows again eventually. I hope.
Yeah, it's funny. So when we first got done school, they said it's going to be, at the most 2 weeks. We'll be back here in 2 weeks. Plan on coming back, basically not tomorrow, whatever this coming Monday is. What is that? The 30th, March 30th?
Yeah.
So they were like, "Hey, plan coming back March 30th. We have those extra days of lesson plans planned, but plan on being back by that day." We got an update probably almost at this point, probably I think it was Monday of this week, that basically said we're not coming back anytime until April 20th. That's the earliest we'll be back. And So a couple of us were like sitting there like, that's kind of strange. I have a friend that teaches in Philadelphia school district, and I was talking to him, and he mentioned, he goes, yeah, next week or the week after that, they're going to start handing out Chromebooks to the kids so that they can do online instruction in Philly. And I was like, wait a minute, you mean in April? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, they're giving kids Chromebooks in April? They're not going back in April.
Yeah.
There's no way. Like this is looking more like a May or a June type thing, and that's kind of a little. I'll be honest with you, it's a little unnerving. We have my daughters are 6, but we have a baby that'll be 6 months in about 3 days, and it's unnerving to be like, shit, I got to go get groceries. Like, we've done a couple of the times we have that order your groceries and you can go and pick them up. They put them right in your trunk.
Yeah.
The problem is that because you're not there, they won't substitute anything. So, like, for example, we ordered things like chicken, like boneless, skinless chicken breast, like a family size package of that. And they were all out of them. So I'm like, okay, so we don't have chicken? And they're like, no. Like, shit. Like, what do we got to eat something. Like,
Go vegan,
luckily,
bro.
I know. Well,
You have to.
oh, that's a 6-year-old.
My girlfriend.
Was,
My girlfriend is vegetarian, so I eat more vegetarian now. But I'm glad because I don't feel great about eating meat. I would like to convert eventually, but I'm not ready yet. You know?
Yeah, I like the efficacy of it. Makes sense to me. Like, I understand the ethics behind it. But I know I would never see. That's where I think that's a huge difference for me. Is I understand what like vegetarian and veganism comes from, the impetus for it like makes sense to me, and I definitely don't want to be cruel to animals, but there's also a part of me that like a huge part of my diet is just meat, like,
Yeah.
and that's I think it's such a daunting thing to be like, hey, you know that thing that you eat 4 nights a week, stop.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing because I eat an enormous amount of chicken and eggs, like
Well,
a
it's
lot.
how we were raised, you know, so it's
100%.
just
Like,
ingrained in us.
I don't remember, like, because my mom worked so much when we were growing up. Like, my mom made a lot of things that were just like, this is, you get this thing and the other thing on the side. So it was like meatloaf and macaroni and cheese, and it was like, that's what you're having for dinner, or you're not having shit for dinner. Like, you're not getting anything else. So like, I just grew to love that stuff, and it's like now, like, I try to feed my kids stuff like that, and they're like, dude, what the fuck is this? They're immediately like, I made what the hell did I make the other day? And my kids were like, what is that? Oh, I made pierogies. With like pierogies with onions and butter, and I like fried them up, and I was like, yo, here you go, and I like put sour cream on the table, and they were like, what is that? Like, you guys didn't have pierogies growing up? What's the matter with you?
I don't think I had pierogies until like 10 years ago for the first time. Maybe even shorter than that. I never even heard of it.
My mom, like, that was like her go-to thing, was like a bag of Mrs. T's. She would just toss them in a crock pot, put butter in it, and then set it on high for like 3 hours and be done.
The go-to dinner in my house was cut up hot dogs with ketchup and macaroni and cheese. I would not eat the macaroni and cheese, never liked it, never have. But it was such a common dinner that there was like a 10-year period where I couldn't eat hot dogs. And then somehow eventually it came back around.
Yeah,
So,
I'm a nut with hot dogs. That's the problem. I actually had a doctor tell me one time. I remember I had bronchitis or pneumonia or something like that, and I got blood work done. And he came back and he was like, yeah, everything looks good. You're actually okay with your lungs. However, your nitrate levels are like ridiculous. And I was like, really? And he's like, typically that's from people consuming too much processed meat. How much processed meat do you eat? And I'm like, I don't eat any processed meat. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't. And he's like, do you eat a lot of hot dogs or bologna? I'm like, oh shit, yeah. Like, I eat enormous amounts of that. Like, I eat a pound of bologna every 3 days. Like, I just make fried bologna sandwiches all the time. And he's like,
you eat bologna?
hey, dude.
That's gross.
My mom used to buy at, I guess, like Sam's Club or Costco. She used to buy Nathan's hot dogs, and it came in like a big, like 48, like it was like 48 or 50 hot dogs in a package. It was huge. And I just remember eating dinner where I would have, I don't know, 6 or 7 hot dogs. Yeah, because I would never eat them with the bread. I would just wrap like 3 of them in a tortilla with cheese.
That's
And
terrible.
then, yeah,
You eat horribly.
I do. Well, I did. I don't eat like that anymore.
After this whole thing is over,
Yeah.
which I hope is sooner than later, there's probably going to be a lot of good shows.
Yes.
Everyone's going to want to play.
I hope so. I really hope there's something like I hope somebody does like a fest. Everybody's out of quarantine fest, and then just throw something big. Could speak this into existence with Meadows. Call Meadows and be like, yo, book something. Like call a bunch of older bands, get something together, and do
At
it at like
Palanca Park.
do it at Palanca.
Oh my God. What happened? He was going to do another show there. What happened?
I have no idea. I know, but there was a couple things going on where Bob had he had a venue in Jersey that was supposed to come about, and I'm not sure exactly what happened with that. But I remember him sending me a picture that it looked like a storefront. Um, I don't know exactly. He'd be a great guest to be able to talk about stuff like that because one, Bob is like one of those people that he just has. First of all, you're good at cataloging and keeping all that stuff. Bob has, I don't know what he has anymore, but I know at one point in time it was hard to walk in his room. Like you would walk into his bedroom and he had piles of records. He had piles of posters, show flyers, pictures. Like
Let's take a trip there and catalog it.
he has enormous amounts of stuff, enormous amounts. Because I think another thing he just is one of those people that was always a thing to him was like he went to the venue and then took a flyer.
Yeah.
Or I mean, if it was Bobby, like he was putting it on, so he made them. So he had 700 copies of it.
Yeah.
And he was distributing them. Like the "Okay, Come On, Kids" that he was doing for a while there.
I remember that now.
Yeah. So it was "Okay, Come On, Kids" for a while, and it was like those shows were just. I saw one somebody posted the other day, and it was like, it was insane. It was like Converge, Disembodied, Starkweather. Like it was something ridiculous. I don't even remember exactly. It was unbelievable though. And I'm like,
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Did you listen to our episodes of our podcast?
Yes. Why?
Wasn't it fucked up? I'm not used to hearing my own voice.
Oh yeah. No, there's a couple things that I heard myself say and I went, oof, like that's a verbal crush.
You know what one of mine is? Instead of saying remember, sometimes I say member. Like,
remember?
Hey, remember when?
Yeah. You remember them? You remember them guys that used to that place over there by Suds? Remember on Route 1? Them guys that used to hang out there.
Yeah, exactly. What was one of yours?
I do say this a lot. Here's the thing. I start out sentences with "here's the thing." I don't know why I fucking do that. No clue. It's just it's a complete. Every time I heard it, I was like, oh, okay. After the third time I heard it, because I start stories with it, I'm like, especially when I'm trying to justify something, I'll go, all right, well, look, here's the thing. When I was doing that, and it's like, it comes across as such like every time I heard it, after I recognized it, it made me cringe. I was just like, ugh.
I say so and like a lot too. So I guess this is how people become better broadcasters. They hear themselves and then they stop doing those things. I used to say "here's the thing" a lot too.
I do. I do it now when I'm teaching. I constantly stop and I go, all right, here's the thing with these. When you set these up, make sure you have, like, I literally, I do it constantly. I noticed that. I also noticed, I guess in my head, the way my voice sounds is deeper than it comes out on recording.
Yeah.
So there's times when I hear my voice and I go, my voice is pretty high. Like that's fucking crazy. I always think my voice is a little bit lower, but it's definitely not. I was trying to think of something. There was somebody telling a story the other day, one of my sisters, and that's what we were doing FaceTime with my sister the other day, and we were talking about something, and I don't remember exactly what she said, but I heard one of the kids in the background say something like, "No, I don't need water. Why would you say that? I don't need water. Why would you put that?" Like, and I'm like, in my head, I'm going, people from around the country are hearing us say water. Like, the only thing they could have combined it with was like crick. I went down to crick to get some water. Like, Jesus, God, what a garbage accent we have. Like, we don't talk the language as much as we chew it up and spit it out. It really is like.
You have the accent.
I know.
Yeah.
I think that's it. So one of the things is I didn't grow up in Philadelphia. I grew up like like where I'm at now, like Feasterville, Southampton, Churchville area. The problem is I was raised by a father from West Oak Lane. My mother was from Logan. And I spent summers, because my mom worked so much, I spent all my summers down in Frankfurt with my cousin Casey. So consistently, I would go to my cousin's house for weeks at a time and live down there. And that's me, you know, playing stickball out back of Frankfurt High School, going to Woodsies and trying to buy Lucy cigarettes off of weirdos. You know what I mean? Like that. So there's times where I say stuff in front of my students at school, and they just go, they don't understand, because they live in Trenton. They think like everybody's either from New York or Philly. So that's their guess, is New York or Philly. So when I say certain things, I'm like, I said something about, I said, call my mom, or call the house, go home, or something. And they were like, dude, listen to the way you say that. And I was like, what? And they were like, home.
Home. That's another one, yes.
I'm like, do I really? And they're like, yeah, call home. Call mommy at home.
You know what another one is? People up here in New York made fun of me for saying wolf instead of wolf. When that movie Wolf of Wall Street was out, I was like, Wolf of Wall Street.
There is a couple things that we should keep in mind. Like my people, there's a couple people in my family that would say things that I heard growing up that I would go, that's the wrong word for that, for sure. Like, you can't say, like my grandfather said things like, you know, the thing on the side of your house that you have a fireplace called a chimney, right?
Yeah.
My grandfather would say chimney.
Chimney.
Every time. Yeah. Go put that next to chimney.
What about you? You're Irish too. Did you ever hear wash instead of wash?
Yeah. So I've actually heard that from a bunch of different places. I had a nun when I was growing up that she was from I think Plano, Texas, or Fort Worth, Texas, Sister Madeline, and she used to say, "You got to go home." I had her for 6th grade, and I remember she would say things like, "Some of you guys stink in here. You got to go home and wash your armpits." And we'd be like, that was like the joke running around for a long time, was wash. But yeah, no, my grandfather would say things like, "What size shirt is that?" Medium.
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 I like that.
There was a couple times where, like, he would say things like his friends would come over, because he stopped working at Frankfurt Arsenal when he was like 57, 58, and he retired. He had a pension and everything, so he just started working renting tables at the flea market. But I remember going to the flea market with him, because he would fix like small engine stuff, like weed whackers and lawnmowers and shit like that, or tools, and he would just resell them. And I remember meeting all his friends, and it was like meeting a mafia movie. He was like, "Yeah, this is Hollywood John. This is Ravioli John. This is Whitey. This is Johnny Coss." Then it's like, why is everybody? This is fucking Goodfellas. Like, what the fuck is happening right now? I'm in the back of a windowless van at Quaker City Flea Market in fucking Northeast Philly, like, and my grandfather's cast of character friends. First of all, they're drinking at 5:30 in the morning. That was hilarious.
Can we go hang out with them now still? That sounds like a good time, actually.
You know what the funny thing is like, my grandfather would say, like, when we were growing up, say like brutal, like definitely uncool prejudice shit. And then I meet my grandfather's friends from the flea market. Every single one of them, with the sole exception of Whitey, was black or Hispanic. And it was like, my grandfather, and I'm like going like, "Grandpa, these are your friends, like, why?" And he's like, "It's just the way we talk. That's how guys talk." And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's not how that works.
No, it's not.
Even as a 10-year-old, I'm like shaking my head to him. I'm like, no. I'm 100% sure you're wrong. However, you're old and drove me here, so I will behave.
All right. I've got a scenario for you. Ready?
Yeah.
All right. Infinite wealth. You never have to work again. Your family has money. Your kids have money. Your kids have money. You can become a philanthropist, right? You can do whatever you want all the time.
Yeah.
But every time you go to see a band play live, this is the only thing you'll ever hear. Ready?
Okay. Oh, Seven Mary 3?
Yeah.
That's all I
This is
hear?
this is it. Like you go to see All Is Failed, this is all you hear. You go to see
Hold
Cave
on.
In, this is all you hear. You go to This Is Hardcore, every band that plays, this is all you hear.
Even on the radio, like even if I go, what if I listen on the radio? Is it
You
still
can
like it's
listen to
all?
the radio and you can listen to records and they'll be the band. But if you ever go see a live band, this is what you'll hear.
I don't know, man. I here's my only thing. I guess I think this is such a trite like kind of answer, but like money definitely doesn't buy you happiness. I see a ton of people that have a shit ton of money and all they have is money to fucking have more expensive problems, you know. Instead
Yeah.
of fucking doing meth, they get coke. So whatever. No, I'd rather go see live bands because the other thing is I showed I think I mentioned this on one of the other podcasts. I hope I'm not doing it again, but I showed a picture to one of my coworkers of us at All Else Failed,
Yeah.
and she was like, "Oh my god, that looks like so much fun." And I'm like,
That's why my answer is that's why my answer is instantly no. Like I want to see All Else Failed. Imagine going to see All Else Failed and all you hear is Seven Mary 3. Would you be able to live with that? I wouldn't, even with all
yeah,
that money.
I think the other thing is like,
Live music is one of the only natural highs left. One of the only like wonderful, great things to experience. You can't trade
it is
that for anything.
yeah, it's like I always think about it as like it's like one of those moments where you have like there's so much going on around you and it's so much to take in, but for some reason it's one of the only times where you really are living in just that moment,
Yeah.
especially with something like This Is Hardcore or All Else Failed. Like you better live in this moment because you're gonna fucking get your head kicked in if you're not fucking paying attention. Like someone's gonna like that's a very real thing. But I was actually thinking about this the other day. It's because I was listening to something out back, and it's so funny. Like when I go through my YouTube playlist, it goes from like the nicest, like most calm things to like vain, and then it's like this up and down in terms of like that emotionality that goes along with it. But I was listening to it, and I was like, I was thinking about that crowd killing phenomenon of like this is how people go to shows now. It's like I just go and beat the crowd up, and it's like
Yeah.
okay, I understand it, but I think when people get really mad at it, I always look at it as like I just remember with hardcore shows when people that didn't necessarily go to hardcore shows, like a metalhead kid shows up, right?
Yeah.
So there's some band on the bill that appeals to this kid that's like a total like chain wallet, Sepultura shirt that's four
Right,
sizes
right,
too
right.
big. Like, he's got those, what were those pants? Remember the pants that had the big parachute bottoms? Not Jinkos, but the ones that were made out of like nylon.
UFOs?
UFOs. Good call. Goddamn. So, that guy shows up and people start swinging fists or dancing hard. And it's like, he gets clobbered in the side of the head and wants to beat someone up. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's not how this works.
There's an acceptable level of crowd kill. Now, if you run and like take out someone's knee, that's not
Yeah.
cool. But if you just kind of like I don't know, like that midair spin kick like into the crowd,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
just kind of bounce off the crowd,
Yeah.
that's okay. But don't like punch somebody in the face or like I don't know. There's acceptable levels in my opinion.
I feel like there's times where I've watched a couple videos. I don't remember whose. I think it was a Vane video, but literally there was a guy. He wasn't even trying to like dance at all. He was just in the crowd
Yeah,
and kept punching. Not like, oh, I'm gonna like swing indiscriminately, like punching at people's faces. It's
that's
like
not cool.
in my head, I'm going like, that's no longer. You're no longer here to have a good time. Like, we're fighting now. Like this is me. This is going to be us fighting because you can't. Like if someone accidentally, like I've been hit in the face really hard at shows before, where I've been like,
Yeah,
fuck, I shouldn't have been that close. Or I should have been paying attention, or I was just a shitty coincidence. My face was right where that person's, like, because here's the other thing. For as many times as I've been hit in the face, I've done the exact same shit to other people. Like, and especially if you go to see a band, like, you go to see Throwdown and people are like crowd killing, it's like, no shit. Like, first of all, listen to the fucking band name. Like,
I remember seeing them at Hellfest 2000, and I didn't even watch the band. I just watched the pit the whole time. It
it's
was
just
it was incredible.
it's just people getting clobbered, man. It's
Yeah.
funny though, 'cause it's the next moment when it's something that you really care about. You're out there doing the same thing. So, I always used to do that with. There was a couple bands that I immediately, as soon as I saw them coming, I was like, I don't want to be in the middle for this. I want to be on the outside watching this. And one of the bands that really stuck out is, you remember when, remember that Canadian band, The End?
Yes.
Used to stay with, they used to stay at the Shaw's house for a
Yes.
while.
Fairly
Maybe they
often.
stayed,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, they started playing like the Kill Time, and I remember being like, there was this, for some reason, this phenomenon that when they started playing, everyone took off their jackets and started swinging their jackets and hitting the floor. I remember
I don't
being like,
remember that.
oh my God, this was such a weird thing. It was like every time they played, people were taking their jackets off and swinging the floor. And as somebody, I was so mad because I wasn't paying attention. And I was like, oh, I want to get on the outside. And I didn't because there were so many people there. And I was standing there and somebody's fucking zipper hit me in the corner of the eye
Ooh.
because they were swinging their jacket around. And I fucking, like, I had to, like, grip my fist up and, like, walk out. I was like, I'm going to punch someone in the fucking face. Like, I mean, I can't believe how it hurt so bad. And
Ow.
immediately split open, and it was like I had like a teardrop of blood coming down the side of my face. I was just like, what the fuck is going on? And then I remember
When they played the Kill Time for the first time, I remember there was concern because Tyler would like just go nuts and like run out into the crowd, and just there would be like a whole thing. I was like, I hope, because I hope he doesn't like get beaten up. Because
yeah.
if you push the wrong person or run into the wrong person in a Philly show,
Well, this
shit might go down.
not if it's the wrong person, something's going to happen, and it's not going to be cool. Like,
Yeah.
you're not going to be okay with the outcome of it. Like, I always used to think that, like, when I was standing in shows like that, that's another thing that's really nice about shows like this, though, is that it's like almost like a weird cast of characters that you learn to kind of coexist with, and you go, oh yeah, those guys are here. Okay, so certain things are off the table at
Yeah,
this point,
exactly.
or certain things are just not going to happen tonight.
Yes.
Or the other part of it was like I would see certain people not there and go like, all right, this might be not as fun as I thought it was going to be, because as much as there was times where like those kids are like, you would see a certain group show up. There was a group from kids from South Jersey that as soon as they showed up, I thought it was the most hilarious thing in the world. I remember, so it was like Bobby Carpenter and Marconi and all those dudes used to show up. As soon as they showed up to a show, I was like, this is going to be hilarious. Like,
Yeah.
they always were, whether the bands were good or not, they were fun at shows. Like, they just came and they danced and they had a good time. Nobody was like overtly like, I'm gonna fight everybody here. Like, everybody just came to like throw down and like fucking drink beers and hang out and have a good time. Like, it was, when I saw those dudes show up, it was like, all right, this is gonna be fun. I don't care how the bands are, because that's, I think, another thing about hardcore that people don't necessarily get is that like it's this weird groups of friends that just kind of like, it was always like, oh, that's the kids from South Jersey. I remember like we went out one weekend, it was Meadows, like me and Meadows and Doug, and there was a bunch of the Life Once Lost kids and a bunch of the kids from South Jersey, and we took them to Byberry. Were you there that night?
Byberry. Oh
The
no,
old men's
no, I never
station?
went there. I never went there.
Oh, that was a
I
wild
wish I
time
would
there.
have though, because it looked awesome. I mean,
It was
I
so
would have
much.
been like, I would have been like too scared or something.
It was so much fun. We used to we would park at that Steak and Shake place on the boulevard,
Yeah.
and we would park in their back parking lot and just walk through the woods to get there. It was so much fun because it was for sure like you weren't allowed to be there.
You're right.
And on
Yeah,
top
the
of that,
cops were always there, like scaring kids off.
yeah, so they used to have when we would go there, they would had a lot of they weren't even cops. They were just like local. They were like a hired security team because they had like a little trailer out in the parking lot on the one building. But they had quads, so they would drive around on the quads and just patrol the buildings. But there was like whole sections of the building that were just wide open. Like doors were off, windows were open. Like you could just crawl in.
Yeah.
Uh, I know Meadows and a couple of those dudes really, really got into it. Like went to, I don't know, historical society or something like that, got maps and started like legitimately exploring that place. Like, that's one of those things that if when we get Meadows on here, we got to talk to him about that because it was such a wild time where like I remember going in there with a couple of people and just being like having a moment where I stopped and I went, I'm holding a Rambo knife in an abandoned mental institution.
Yeah.
It's 3:00 in the morning. I just got chased by security. What the fuck am I doing with my life? Like, why am I fucking here? Why am I here doing this? Like, what?
That's the kind of stuff you do when like, you know, when before you're 21 and you don't really have anywhere to go or anything to do. Like, we used to go to there was some church we used to go to. What was it? It was I can't remember the name of it, but they would have like there was something going on in the woods, and we were convinced it was some cult or something. It was weird. I don't remember.
The Pitcairn.
Yeah.
That Brynathan Cathedral.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anybody that's not from the area, Brynathan Cathedral is this. It looks like something out of a fucking storybook. First of all.
Yes, that's why we went, and we thought it was all mystical and whatnot.
Yeah, so that's actually it's not it that you're not far off from it. The dude that started that thing, that religion is called Swedenborganism.
Yeah.
This dude in like the 1700s, I think, started. His name's Emanuel Swedenborg. But his like religion was basically Christianity mixed with like mysticism. So it really there is like magic and shit involved. Like I don't know like exactly what it is, but yeah, they have that whole place is now like that's a college. It's called the College of the New Church or something like that.
We used to go there late at night, like 11 o'clock, and I don't know. I don't remember if there was actually weird stuff going on or if we just imagined it, but it was fun.
Oh yeah.
Well, folks, we're coming down to the top of the hour here, so let's wrap this up. Now, thanks again to everyone who reached out. Continue to do so, northeastscene@gmail.com or the NE Scene on Instagram. We're on Twitter now too at the same handle, the NE Scene. Reach out to us on any of those mediums. I'm on the Instagram the most, but if it's going to be something longer, send it through the email, northeastscene@gmail.com, because that'll just make things easier. So again, reach out, show flyers, ticket stubs, show videos, old stuff, new stuff, stories. Just keep reaching out to us. We've heard from a lot of people and we want to hear from more people. We know the audio quality was not the best for the first 4 episodes, and it will not be. Yeah, it will not be great for these either because we're on Skype. But we're consulting industry experts, and we're gonna work it out. We don't really want to do Skype interviews. We want to do it just pretty much in person because you just get a better interview and it's more personal and all that stuff. But there's no choice right now. Like you have to quarantine. You shouldn't be around other people. We can't travel, so it's got to be through Skype. And we wanted to reach out. So audio quality, we hear you. We are working on it. And Tommy, any final words?
No, that's a pretty good summation of it. That's it.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening, and we will see you soon. Until next time.